Right, hello everyone. This time tomorrow, Celtic versus Rangers. There'll be people here, Ryan, in less than a day now. And it's kind of weird. Ryan's on, by the way. Hello, Ryan.
Nice to be back.
You know him by now. We get him on before all of the derby matches, mainly for the preview. In fact, it's funny we've got you on today. Are you superstitious at all when it comes to these games?
I don't believe in superstition at all.
I don't believe you.
Well, you tell me why.
So basically, I was looking earlier. We're coming to the game today. We've done previews to these games. We've won one, I think, and we've lost two of the ones we did. So I thought, I'm going to wear the exact same as I wore the last time that we did the winning one, the 3-0 game, the day before. We were actually pretty much in this same spot. You can see it there. I was wearing this, and you were wearing the exact same thing. So you clearly are superstitious.
Well, do you know what? Honestly, people think that's like we've coordinated this, like we've tried to turn up like that. But I remember when I first drove up and you were like, oh, I'm glad you've done something. I was like, what are you glad I've done? But I just thought you meant wearing Celtic gear in general because you've got none on at all.
This game has kind of crept up on us quite a lot, I think. Usually, weekend game, the week leading up to it, the Monday, you're buzzing, you can't wait for the games, the days are, slowly going by. This has been a little bit different this week, probably for a number of reasons. I think the fact that the Champions League is coming up, and arguably, dare I say, an even bigger game is coming up in a few days, which is crazy to say. We've also had the transfer window slamming shut. We had the game in midweek, and I think the fact that this game is a Saturday. I mean, when do we ever get a Saturday derby now? It's almost always Sundays, but it's all just led to this feeling of me waking up this morning and thinking, we've got a derby tomorrow. It's
weird, and as you said, arguably, it's not every day you welcome Real Madrid to town. That's going to be unique in itself. You had the draw last week, which was really exciting. Derby wasn't exactly the first thing in our minds. And then Ross County, important game to get through the cup. Everything's just been happening so fast, and then amongst that, you've had transfers. As you said, it's kind of crept up on us, and I'm more excited. I think the minute I seen Parkhead this morning when I pulled round the corner, it kind of hit me a wee bit more that tomorrow there'll be 60,000 of us packing into the stadium. But it's been a weird one. It's happened so fast, and the more morning it will definitely be the same old when it comes to these games. The nerves will hit the stomach a little bit more, but the excitement's there. And of course, as soon as Ange Postecoglou walks out of the tunnel tomorrow, I will be a different version.
Is he playing?
Of Ryan. Well, he's not playing. Well, who knows? Maybe he'll sub himself on for a laugh. But as soon as I see him and the team emerge from the tunnel, Ryan118 will be in his full derby mode will be activated.
Brilliant. We have done these videos, as I say, before defeats, before victories, and you could look at all of them and I'm stating the obvious here, but you can never tell what the result is going to be from two idiots, because we're always positive.
Well, we spoke about this in the podcast yesterday, right? Like, how funny is it, if you went back and watched all of our previews, how many times do you think we've said like the same cliche statements, like, oh, you never know what's going to happen, blah blah blah, the atmosphere will be amazing.
So with that in mind and trying to avoid these cliches, how are you feeling specifically about this game? Do you think we're going to do the business?
It's weird because that's what I'm in two minds. I made the joke when you started the video and you asked, another 3-0, and I said 4-0, 5-0, because one half of me is like, I think we could. This is the most confident I've been for a derby in a long time. But then I've got to look at it realistically. I've got to look at it, level-headed and say these are two really good teams at the minute. These are two sides that are in the Champions League for the first time since how many years has it been? It's over
15 years,
over a decade anyway, since both of them have been in the Champions League. So you're looking at two really good sides, and you've got to look at Rangers and say, right, it's a tough team to beat. So it's weird. Like, part of me's really confident. Part of me's a little bit sort of reserved, but ultimately Celtic are flying at the minute, and you've got every right to feel as confident as you want going into it.
I mean, they're a stuffy side, Rangers. We've seen the results they get in Europe. I think the game tomorrow is going to be very much like a European match for them, and that always fills you with a little bit of fear. But we'll come on to it later on in the video, but I do feel just extremely confident in this side. We've got so many players playing at the top of their game that they're going to have to try and keep quiet. And if you keep Kyogo quiet, Jota steps up. If you keep Jota quiet, is Hatate going to step up again? I mean, those are probably the three key players for me. And then you look at the bench and the players we can bring on. So it's exciting. Well, we move on quickly to transfer stuff. We touched on this. Well, I touched on this mainly yesterday. The window slammed shut at midnight. As expected, Oliver Abildgaard came in for what the club is calling a season-long deal. We looked into this a little bit. It seems like it's part of special FIFA regulations that allow a player to unilaterally suspend their contract. Great derby chat there. So it's kind of a loan, but also hopefully, I mean, the way he was going on, the way he was saying his buys
that's what I was thinking, his Instagram
the Russian club, and we know that Ange doesn't tend to sign players who don't have a long-term future at the club. So I would assume that however it works, that he will be here for years to come. What do you know much about him?
Listen, it was a name that when it first was kind of linked with the club, when he was first sort of rumoured to be signing, I wasn't going to sit there and pretend that I knew all sorts about him. I done a wee bit of research on my channel last night on a live stream, and I got to know a bit more about him. But listen, what we
That's when you get tricked.
This is when I got pranked. Listen, I was knackered, right? I was knackered. But we done a wee bit of research into him, and listen, he's a defensive midfielder, and we knew we needed someone to come in and strengthen that department. You've now got the option of moving McGregor up the park if you want to, but you've also got the option of resting McGregor when you need to. And he looks as though, he's a Danish international, and it's not easy to get into the Denmark national side. A really good team, have players like Matt O'Reilly, of course, so it seems to be a good player. I'm happy we've got him, and as you've talked about the deal, I expect it to be one that's made a longer stay come the end of this season. So hopefully this year he proves himself, he gives us something to rave about, and it makes it worthwhile when he does sign a longer deal with the club.
Just another good option to have in the midfield as well. It's exciting. In terms of outgoings, as expected, Mikey Johnson has moved out on a season-long loan to Vitória Guimarães. He has signed a 1-year contract extension at Celtic too. Thank you very much. So Celtic clearly seeing a future for Johnson with him signing an extension. Liam Shaw has moved to Morecambe on a season-long loan too.
Do you think that's someone that the club don't see as much of a future for?
Yeah, I mean, what is Liam Shaw, like option 6 in the midfield now for one position basically? Just, it kind of shows where we've come from though, because a year ago people, me mainly, we're saying Liam Shaw, should be pushing for a starting place. Why is he not getting more opportunities? Mate. And it's obviously a good thing because the squad's improved a lot, but you've got players like Owen Moffat has left. Scott Robertson doesn't seem like he's going to get that opportunity ever, just because the calibre of that Celtic midfield is too high. Liam Shaw, Uri Gidi, these players just quite plainly aren't good enough. But as Ange said yesterday with Ayeti, it's his job as well to get them on and improve their careers, and if that's away from Celtic, then everyone's kind of happy. Overall thoughts on the window then?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Is it the best window?
Well, on paper, you'd like to say so.
Sitting there thinking.
Yes, that was the exact words that I used last night. Champagne Charlie would love it. No, listen, this is a fantastic window for so many reasons, because we went into it and the things that we had to address, we addressed. We wanted a new left back. Granted, Greg Taylor's pushed on tremendously anyway, but we wanted a new left back. We wanted centre half depth. We wanted to re-sign Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers. We'd done everything that was a priority and more. We've brought in players like Sead Haksabanovic, who's an absolute steal for the price we've got him at. It's unbelievable how we've went about our business this window. But the big difference between this transfer window for me and 2020, when we looked at that and we went, oh, this is brilliant, what a transfer window is. All of these players to this point have proven themselves. Like Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers, we already knew about. Sead Haksabanovic, he's only played 15 minutes, but he looked great. Aaron Moy, he's coming onto a game now. Everybody's raving about him. Jens, he looks good. He's a great option. Everybody there, apart from obviously Abildgaard, who's only just signed, we've seen and we know that they're going to add to this team. And Postecoglou's signed them for a reason. Whereas in 2020, looking at it with hindsight, I think a lot of them are just signings for the sake of it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the season unravels. But we've signed like a Champions League club, and you look at the squad depth now, and you put out one of those graphics. You can see, I think it was you put out the kind of squad depth one, and it's just unbelievable where we stand at the minute. So the window's been an absolute 10 out of 10 success.
And you look at those previous windows, and it's always been signing players because we absolutely had to. I look at this summer, and if we hadn't have signed Abildgaard, if we hadn't have signed Haksabanovic, potentially even someone like Jens or Moy, I don't think anybody would have been turning up this morning, burning Paradise down or whatever, or protesting against the board. I think we all kind of felt that, get a left back in, that was the real priority, along with Carter-Vickers and Jota. And if the window had kind of stopped there, yes, it probably wouldn't have been a great window, but you wouldn't have been too fearful about the team's goals. But Ange clearly just has this massive plan for Celtic to compete on multiple fronts, and we saw on Wednesday the kind of strength in the squad and players coming in. Guys like James Forrest and Haksabanovic can't even start in your B team. And then we've added someone like Abildgaard as well, so it's just so exciting, so many options, and just can't wait for all these games to come now. Yep. Last season when all these games were coming, I had a kind of sense of trepidation because you're wondering, injuries, what's going to happen. If we get injuries this year, if we get hopefully it doesn't happen, 4 or 5 injuries at the same time, you're going to hopefully still have options there to field a team at the top level. So it's massively exciting.
And that's one thing about this transfer window as well. Another thing that makes it a 10 out of 10 is the fact that we've lost nobody, not one player
it's a good point.
Of significance has left. Even Juranovic was linked to Atletico Madrid, O'Reilly's been linked to God knows how many clubs, and people would have undoubtedly been looking at other players in and around their team, and even Jota and Vickers, who could have stayed at their parent clubs. We've kept everybody, which is a big bonus in itself. So
stood still though, apparently, according to some fan supporters.
Yes.
Don't think they actually signed the player yesterday, did they?
No,
but anyway,
I don't think so.
We'll move on now.
40 million spent well.
We'll move on. Fears about tomorrow's game. Have you? I mean, you've always got fears about these games. Where would they lie? What's going through your head?
In terms of our game, I don't fear too much. I've seen people having, and in my comment section anyway, I've seen people having reservations about Starfelt and maybe the way he could be defensively a little bit better. I don't really buy into all that. But in terms of fears, it's a weird one. You look at Rangers at the moment. The boy, is it Kolak up front? Yeah. He's looking a good player. He could be a handful, but I trust him.
If he gets service, he can be a handful.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he's like a Morelos that's kind of going to charge after players and make something happen himself.
I think my biggest fear is the way that Kyogo might get treated in the game, because for me he's starting up front. He's got to be, not just because I want him to. I think he is starting up front. There's no doubt about that for me. And if Rangers want to deal with him, you could see him getting roughed about. I think that whoever they start at centre half, be it Goldson, Suter, whoever, I think they'll try and rough him about. But I trust in Kyogo to use his intelligence as a player to try and get round that. He's someone who doesn't need the ball at his feet. He doesn't dribble with the ball a lot. If he can be one step ahead of their centre halves, he can certainly avoid the situations where he might be getting dragged and pulled about or getting kicks to the shins. So if he wants to score us a wee offside goal tomorrow, I would be happy with that. If he wants to beat the line using his brain, but apart from that, since it's the first derby of the season, it's hard to pinpoint any real fears. I feel.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of change. I think, especially in their team. A lot of players playing in their first derby here tomorrow for them, and you always wonder how much of a factor that really is. I certainly think it's going to be a slight advantage. Does the fact that basically every player that starts
almost
tomorrow
similar to
will know.
Last season when we played the first derby, and you seen the likes of Joe Hart, Starfelt, Mark Kyogo, they were all playing their first derby sort of thing.
I mean, it can work both ways. I mean, that first half we were the better team at Ibrox, so it can work both ways. But I mean, to me, Kyogo's is probably going to be the kind of key player for us tomorrow. Between him and Hatate, I think you're just waiting on kind of Kyogo really having that derby match. I mean, in the past we've had the Dembele match and even the Hatate match earlier this year, and Kyogo, through injuries and through other reasons, been played out in the left, etc., hasn't really had a proper kind of go in a derby match. It feels like he has
played a derby because of how.
And I just think he's just right at the top of his game right now, and I just think that movement up front tomorrow, I think, will kill Rangers. Honestly, I mean, you're talking about centre backs. I think I'm right in saying Suter's not going to play and he's injured. I think the guy Davies is also injured. So I think we're looking at probably Goldson and Sands and Barisic probably at left back. Now I think that's a major part of the team where Celtic can hurt Rangers. The midfield to me is where the worry comes from, and not that we've got a bad midfield. I think we've got an exceptional midfield. It's that aggression, and it's that kind of I don't know, like strength in the midfield that I feel that they have. They've got a lot of players who aren't particularly great footballers, but will just kick things and put in challenges. I think we all know who we're talking about. The clue is he stares a lot. He's not the only one. I mean, Ryan Jack, if he plays tomorrow, which again I think is probably a big if, is a similar kind of player. We've got real footballers in that area. Hatate, as I've already said, I think could be the star man tomorrow, the key man. But that's the only thing I think in the last couple of derbies they've won that midfield battle through a bit of strength, and I just think we've lacked that a little bit. Now maybe that's a bit of a kind of Neanderthal comment to make. Maybe it's more down to who gets the ball down and passes, especially at Celtic Park when we've got the crowd behind us. But I just hope that there's none of this kind of picking players up. I think I feel like I've said this to you before. None of this picking players up and are you all right? Like, let's remember that game, the 3-0 game earlier this year. Now I know it was a perfect storm. It was a night game. We could go top of the league. We'd not beaten them in ages. The fans were just up for it.
We all had a drink.
Yeah, there was no away fans. Like, it was, everything contributed to that, and we're not going to get that tomorrow. I understand that, but I'd love to see a bit of that back, because I just feel as if the last derby, we were the team that had everything to lose. They could just come to Celtic Park in the league, nothing to lose. The league was effectively over already. Whereas tomorrow, I honestly feel like the pressure's on them. I know we're the home team, but they're the ones who have had a bad window. They're the ones who could be 5 points behind tomorrow. And I just think we've got such a good feel-good factor, and I just want to see a lot of that brought tomorrow. I think Celtic Park is going to be buzzing tomorrow, but I just want the players to have that real... I've said it before, Celtic were possessed that night when we beat them 3-0. I want to see that to an extent tomorrow. I want
fire in the belly.
No picking players up. I want a good early challenge and player football.
I mean, listen, it's been about, how many years has that been now since it's passed? About 12, no longer than that, 14 years. I just want a repeat of 2008, that game, everybody at the end having a wee fight and all the rest. Yeah, just a bit of fire, aggression in it. But that's the thing, deep down it's in these players, even the ones that you see Hatate and he'll go and he'll pick players up, but deep down that there is there's a fire in there, there's an aggression in there. He just needs to kind of unlock it in the game, I think. And you're right about the midfield. I feel like we're better off than we were a couple of years ago, because I remember back in 2019, 2020 time, they would just run over us in the midfield all the time. I feel like we had nothing. Now we've got players who are absolute ballers. They're just fantastic at what they do. Technical abilities unmatched. So I think we've improved on that front, but we need to match their levels of, as you're talking about, their aggression, their kind of hunger in that area. Because if we can do that, it adds another element to our game that just gives us a wee bit more on them, because I think we are a better team. There's no denying that. I'm going to say that without caring what anybody thinks.
I think even some Rangers fans would probably concede that we're a better team, and especially we have better attackers. So that's not my worry tomorrow, that we'll create chances in that. It's just that we kind of get drawn into their game, if that makes sense. And their game is a real, bitty match with loads of free kicks, and they love free kicks. I mean, I've never seen a team who plays for free kicks and penalties more. Whereas for us, if it's a good game, it's free kicks being taken quickly, throws, corners, etc. Because I think if it's that Celtic that turns up, taking everything quickly, not giving them a second to relax, basically, to switch off, and we've got that atmosphere that will that will thrive from that. I just think they can't deal with that at all. Let's choose our team. Let us know what you think of this. Ryan, Hart, Juranovic, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor, McGregor, O'Reilly, Hatate, Jota, Kyogo, Maeda.
Okay, is that your team?
See, I feel like 95% sure that's the team we'll see.
See, I agree with you in saying I think that's the team we'll see, but it's not the team that I want to see. There's one change I'd make. I'm sure you could probably guess it, maybe.
You would have Abada?
I'd have Abada.
Over Maeda?
Yes, I would.
Maeda, though, on the left-hand side, going up against Tavernier.
I love Maeda, and I think he's fantastic. And against Tavernier, you make a great point. But I just want Jota on the left, mate. I want Jota on the left. And Abada, he scored a hat-trick last week. He looked decent on Wednesday night as well. Maeda or Abada, I'm not going to complain who starts. I'm not going to complain at all. It's not that I've got my vision set on Abada starting. I really don't mind. But Maeda coming off the bench to me is a brilliant option as well. If the legs are tired 60, 70 minutes into the game for Rangers fullbacks, you're having Dyson Maeda run up against you late in the game. You've got no chance. Point. You've got no chance whatsoever. And I feel like Abada I think he offers more of a goal threat in the sense, if he wants to cut in and have a shot, or he's moving around into goal scoring areas. I feel like he's got more of a chance of scoring against Rangers tomorrow. I don't know. I would personally just have Abada, but it's mainly genuinely just to accommodate Jota on the left.
Okay.
I think he could tear Tavernier limb for limb with just his skills.
My perfect thing would be Maeda on the left, Jota on the right, and then they switch wings half an hour in.
Tavernier's
not got a clue where he is. I just think Maeda's crucial in that left hand side. There will be people watching this, and I think everyone's kind of pretty sure Kyogo's going to start, just given that he was the one that was rested on Wednesday. But I do feel it is my duty as the most fervent fan of Georgios Giacomakis to point out that probably our best results, our wins against Rangers last year, came when he was up front. I don't think he's going to start tomorrow. I certainly think he'll have a part to play.
Yep.
But is there an argument, for as good as Kyogo is, that Giakoumakis is more effective against Rangers?
Definitely, and just on your point, until Sead Haksabanovic signed last week, he's probably my favourite outfield player at the club. I am a massive Giakoumakis fan. He's just a striker who has all the attributes of a player I love. He just reminds me of some of the best strikers that I've loved through my career, through their career and their footballing.
Your career
yes, my career is long gone, mate.
A YouTuber.
A snout a day keeps scouts away, as they say. Anyway, Giakoumakis, as you've said, fantastic in those last few derbies that he did play, and he offered such a problem to the defence. The physicality obviously brings, we know all the cliches. If he brings that on at any point tomorrow, whether he starts or not, it's going to cause issue. Yeah. But I just think, as you said, Kyogo, with the form he's on at the minute, and the fact that he was rested midweek, all signs sort of point towards him starting the game. But that's the beauty of the depth and the stuff we've got at the moment. The fact that Giakoumakis can come on tomorrow with half an hour to go and realistically add goals is just it's incredible. But listen, if he starts tomorrow, I'm not going to complain either.
Yeah, and you've got Abada/Maida on the bench to come on. One of them will be on. Haksabanovic, who I would certainly like to see a bit of. I thought he just looked superb the other night. I think he could come in right away.
The dream is right. Just imagine 10 minutes to go. It's 1-0, right? Tense atmosphere. Substitution on coming number 9, Haksabanovic. 10 minutes passes. 90th minute, ball comes in the box. He's standing at the back post, taps it in, runs right towards the away section, tap half, swinging it in the air. Bottles being launched at him. He's just standing with his arms out. That's everything I dream of, Hamish.
Amazing. It's a strange kind of route into your mind there, but you chose violence. But I mean, we've got options. Turnbull, who I thought was really good on Wednesday as well, is on the bench. It's going to be a tough game though. They're a good side.
A lot of people making the case. I mean, I personally don't think he will, or not in a bad way. I don't think he should. But a lot of people making the case for Moy to start tomorrow. I've seen a lot of people suggesting that Moy should start.
McGregor up one.
Yeah, I mean, you could potentially do that. I mean,
actually, I don't know if I'd be massively surprised if that did happen.
Listen, I said in the podcast yesterday, it'll be out later on, so technically today. I said in the podcast, if Moy does start, I'm not going to complain. I think he looked brilliant on Wednesday night. He reads the game incredibly well. That's the beauty about it just now. I think that in years in the past, the changes would be made to the starting 11 that would surprise us in the day, and then you'd be sitting there like, what's he done that for? But I don't think you get that same reaction with any changes right now. You don't turn around and go, what's he done that for? You're pleasantly surprised at any shocks to the change in the starting 11.
The more I think about it, like, he's got a real calm head, and I just think in a derby that might be what we need. I don't know, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be totally surprised now thinking if I saw the team tomorrow and it was Moy with, say, McGregor and Hatate in front. I mean, I know they're both left-sided, Hatate and McGregor, but I wouldn't be massively surprised. I do still think it will be that McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, but Moy will certainly have a part to play as well. In terms of, tomorrow and the fans, as I've already touched on, I just hope this place, is rocking tomorrow. I think that, as I say, the last couple of derbies, we've been the one with a bit to lose. I just think tomorrow's such a feel-good factor. We couldn't be in a better place going into this game. We've got Real Madrid coming up. It's got all the makings, and for a fact Celtic are going to start the game fast. And if we can get that early goal, that is going to be so big.
Well, shout out to the away fall in the last couple of games, because I think the atmospheres have looked absolutely tremendous. And I channel back to, I just remember last week channeling the thoughts of coming up for half time and piling on the agony, putting on the styles, ringing round.
Imagine that ringing round tomorrow.
Like, mate, I've been dreaming of it all week. Like, I've not been thinking about the derby too much, but one thing I have been thinking of is 44 minutes, half time whistle's about to go, and that's just booming round paradise. We're up 3-0 again or something. That'd be magic. But you're right, we'll start the game fast. Fans need to just get behind it, stick into it. I think at that 1-1 game at the end of last season, it kind of fell a bit flat.
That's what I'm saying. We were the ones who had the fear. They had nothing to lose at all.
So it fell a bit flat. I'm hoping that Celtic feed off the atmosphere at the start of the game, and it gives us a reason to just keep going, and obviously pushes us on to a decent result.
We don't get many Saturday derbies here.
Nah.
The Demolition or whatever they call it was a Saturday.
That was
I remember that. I think it was 10th of September 2016. I could be wrong with that, but I seem to remember these dates. Tomorrow, and this is going to be one of my final comments, I think it's the Kyogo derby. How about that?
I think so. Well, I'm feeling, I did predict on my own channel that tomorrow's the day that he he gets his derby goal. So
because it's kind of all he's been missing, really.
Exactly, and I feel like, do you know what? The Kyogo derby sounds nice. It sounds really nice. So I'm going to back you on that one, Mr. Carton.
Excellent. I think we will leave that there. Just can't wait for the game. Hopefully you are buzzing as well, whether you're coming, whether you're watching at home, wherever you are in the world. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Did we get a prediction? Do we want to get a prediction, Ryan?
I mean, do you want my prediction?
Yes.
I'm going to, I know I had joked earlier on maybe about a wee 4 or 5-0. We'll calm it down a little bit. I'll go for 6 now. 3-1. 3-1 is what I'm going for. I want to keep a clean sheet, but you know what these games are like. By hook or by crook, they'll find the net somehow. Whether it be a penalty or not, who knows. But I'm going to go 3-1.
I think we've had a lot of 2-0s in these first derby matches over the years, and I could see that being the scoreline. I think it's going to be a really, really tough game. You know, it's not going to be the 3-0 game we saw earlier in the season. It's going to be a much tougher game. Rangers are a good team who, in general, despite them not signing any players, they are in a relatively good place at the moment in terms of coming through qualifiers. Beat PSV, who are a good side. But I just think with that backing behind us, and given the place Celtic are in, and given Jota, Kyogo, Hatate are all just playing so well, and so are so many other players, I just think we're going to have a little bit too much for them tomorrow. I really hope that's the case. As I say, I hope you enjoy the game wherever you're watching it. Ryan, same goes to you, mate. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much.
And we will be back post-match tomorrow. Take care, everyone, and hail, hail.